Discharge by Death is the name of a band and their only album, which was released on December 13th, 2010. I actually originally came across this album after being recommended the song Necrosis on YouTube, and then decided to listen to the entire thing on Spotify. Normally, it wouldn't be considered odd for a band to have their album on Spotify, but in this case, it is perplexing. Discharge by Death was a band formed entirely by prison inmates in the New Mexico correction system. I'll be honest, even though the album is actually musically good, I could not listen to it more than once. The crime committed by Jason Desnoyers is the main reason for this. In 1998, 18-year-old Carly Martinez went missing after going out for the night. She was taken by Jason Desnoyers and Jesse Avalos, who took her to a remote part of New Mexico where the two brutally raped and beat her. Various news articles couldn't seem to figure out what tools were used exactly, but it was generally agreed that she was stabbed in the head and suffered some sort of blunt force trauma. One article I read stated that it was a tire iron. An article from the Alamogordo Daily News, which was dated July 14, 1999, stated that Carly was stabbed more than a dozen times in the head, chest, abdomen, back, thighs, and buttocks. A single-edged knife was identified as one of the weapons, while the second weapon could have been anywhere from a screwdriver to potentially no other weapon at all. Carly stood no chance against her murderers, as she was a small woman, small girl, and only 5 feet or 5'1", barely 100 pounds. In comparison, Desnoyers and Avalos are 5'10" and 5'8" respectively, and which is according to their current prison info, and they weigh, granted nowadays, about 200 pounds each. So just from height alone, the two had a major advantage over her. When Carly went missing, her family placed numerous ads in the papers asking for help, trying to find her. It wasn't until the end of March 1998, 2 months after her disappearance, that her body was identified. It turned out that her remains were burned, as her murderers had tried to destroy the evidence. Around this point, Jason Desnoyers left the state of New Mexico and fled to San Diego, California, though he was eventually caught and extradited back to New Mexico. Both Avalos and Desnoyers tried to deny any responsibility and blamed the other for killing Carly. From the way it read in news articles, though, it seemed to me that Desnoyers was more the mastermind behind the murder, though Avalos still participated and helped. Both families for the defendants tried to claim that their children were innocent. Thankfully, though, both were found guilty and sent to prison for life. It seems that not long after being sent to prison is when Desnoyers started the process in creating this band with the other inmates, of which one of the other members was also a convicted murderer, who was in for life. I just want to point out, though, for the sake of this video and this review, if you want to call it that Jesse Avalos, who helped Desnoyers, was not a part of this band. So to actually review the music or album itself, I found that the talent that was used on this album unfortunately went to waste. The guitar, the drums, and bass were all good. If things were a little bit different and these people came together on the outside, they could have actually been a good band. And that is the saddest part about this, other than the murders, of course. But the darkness on this album permeates to me through each song. It's hard not to feel the true evil and dark energy that comes from this. Some people might think I'm, crazy. Oh my God, it's just music. And it's like, you know what? It is. But sometimes people will create horrible things. I'm unsure what the musical influences were for Desnoyers and the people involved, though I have felt that early Cannibal Corpse, the Barnes era, may have been a major influence. I also hear instrumentally similarities that are akin to Ripping Corpse. So for me, any enjoyment that I would have had on this album was squashed, mostly due to the lyrics, which were written by Jason Desnoyers. Believe it or not, For the first time ever in my life, I was disgusted by the lyrics to any band. Never, ever before have I ever been genuinely shocked at reading what someone has written for their music. And keep in mind, I'm a fan of Cannibal Corpse. I actually like those early Barnes era albums, and I will give, credit where credit is due, that those early Cannibal albums can have shocking lyrics. That didn't shock me. This album did. Typically, metal lyrics can be dark, edgy, and shocking to those that don't understand the genre, but even the more risque, gory, or sinister lyrics do not compare to what is on this album. And I'm not trying to Streisand myself, but sometimes I think it's just important to point out things when they're just genuinely, I don't even care, when they are genuinely fucked up. To me, I was like, this is just fucked up, you know? So I know that this might only promote the band even further, but I just feel like this needs to be said. I do. At the end of the day, I know that people are going to do whatever they want. So it's clear to me, that I might end up, turning somebody on to this. They might be like, ooh, I'm going to check this out, and they might like it. They might be able to excuse the lyrical content. For me, I'm just not that type of person. I'll tell you, hey, this exists and this is messed up, but it's up to you if you want to listen to it or not. To me, it's very clear that the lyrics on this album are serious, and that's the difference. Especially when you consider the fact that every person involved on this album is a convicted felon, of which 2 are murderers, you look at the lyrics very differently. And that's the difference here for me. If this was any other band, certain songs would have just been taken simply as, anti-Christian, anti-religious, and a general disdain for society. I could have, seen it like that for the most part. This isn't out of the ordinary for many metal bands, and many bands, even just rock bands, will write about their dislike for societal norms, dislike of religion, and of course rebellion in general. Deicide is a great example of anti-religious music. Cannibal Corpse is another example of shocking horror movie type lyrics. Burn the Priest, the early Lamb of God album, is of course another example of anti-Christian music. But even if we were to look at bands that were commonly talked about during the Satanic Panic, such as Iron Maiden, Megadeth, Slayer, these bands had lyrics that were commonly considered bad. This was by people who knew next to nothing about metal. Yet, there's a difference here between the bands I just mentioned like Slayer and Megadeth and Discharge by Death. The obvious being, of course, that Discharge by Death consists of convicted murderers, and the person who wrote the lyrics actually did some of the things that are in the songs. This is what is most disgusting to me. To me, this album was like Desnoyers' way of gloating about his crime and passing it off as a way to, have his creative tension released. Before the song Butcher Jesus, there is a recorded quote from someone who I originally assumed was Tex Watson, but I don't know. But someone is quoted as saying, "I'm the devil and I'm here to do the devil's work." I don't know where this recording comes from exactly. It doesn't appear in the 1976 movie Helter Skelter or in any of the other Manson movies I've seen so far. I do find it strange how they used a quote from another murderer in their own music. For reference, that's basically what Tex Watson told Wojtek Frykowski before the murders at Cielo Drive. Now, I do know that this is sometimes just a common phrase. I am the devil and I'm here to do the devil's work. Apparently, this is also said in a Slipknot song, but I believe technically this album was recorded before that Slipknot song came out, but I might be wrong about that. Even still, I don't believe that this song is quoting the Slipknot song. The worst part about this album is the song Fetal Snatch Thief, to which I literally cannot repeat the lyrics to on YouTube. It is absolutely horrible. Absolutely. This is clearly not theater. It is a disgusting fantasy fetish by a disgusting human being. The song starts off with a recording whose origin I don't know where it comes from, but someone is asked, "What would be your intention if you were forced to live in prison?" They reply, "Do everything I can to escape, and if necessary, kill prison guards on the way out, and I'll go right back to doing what I did before as soon as I hit the streets." The first person then asks, "What is that?" And the second says, "Kill." To which "kill" is then repeated, and the song starts. It's strange to me that the album was allowed to be created at all, actually, and I wonder if it was under the guise that it would help once again to release tension and anger for the inmates. There are prisons that allow inmates to create music, use instruments, paint, and more, but you don't typically see stuff in the realm like this. Typically, inmates are not allowed to make money off their creative endeavors, and that's actually one of the reasons why Charles Manson's album Lie had all the profits go towards Wojtek Frykowski's son. My question with this album is, where's the money going? Who receives the money that is made off of this album? Because you can buy it off Bandcamp, actually. And on top of that, you can listen to it on YouTube. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I listen to it on Spotify. So it's on there also. But of course I ask, who is the person that benefits from this? It's not clear. Do the families of any of the victims know that this album exists? Because I think they don't. To reference, by the way, when Jason Desnoyers was sentenced for the murder of Carly Martinez, he did not apologize. He did not apologize for killing her. Instead, he said he was only sorry for being at the wrong place at the wrong time. I know that there are people who will enjoy this album no matter what. There are some people that are just like that. There are some people that they collect, murderabilia, if you want to call it that, such as, they collect John Wayne Gacy's art, and there's people that marry serial killers. It doesn't seem to bother them. There's people that will forgive the person that murdered their parents, such as, Susan LaBarge and Tex Watson. There will always be people that will support what seems to be unforgivable. I can't tell you not to listen to this. My only point in bringing this up is, strangely enough, in saying, yes, this does exist. But I question who is making money off of this. That's what I would like to know. So once again, personally, I'm not going to rate this album. I will just say that this is not for me.